Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Alagna, for those that I haven't met. So I have a little bit of a thing I want to share with you today that it might be, some of you might think it's not your thing, but I think that it's important for domainers. And if there's anybody in this room who is interested in the new round of top-level domains that's planned for 2026, I think I'll have some information that'll be really valuable for you. But it applies to domainers too, because I'm going to talk about succeeding as a registry. And if you succeed as a registry, you're going to attract domain investors, because domain investors don't want to invest in registries that don't succeed. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's kind of the plan. By the way, I want to thank Helmets and James, Tess, who's been helping here. You guys are doing a great job. I'm really impressed with the progress we're making, and just the advancement of the whole domain summit from the first year to last year to this year is really something. So thank you and congratulations. Now, a little background on myself. Is that advancing automatically? Okay, there we go. I'm in the business almost 24 years now. So I spent about 12 years working for a registry, CentralNic, when they were a baby company. I spent about 8 years working for a retail registrar, 101 Domain. And not only was 101 Domain a specialist in country codes, but they also specialized in brands. And they did have a lot of retail. And a lot of domainers bought names from them because they were one of the only places you could buy certain names. They sold country codes when all of the big registrars were only interested in ComNet, OrgBiz, Info, and so forth. And then the last 2 years, before I actually left the industry for a short time, I spent working for Afilias. And let's see if I could do this. When I worked for Afilias, I'm going back. Everything's crazy here. When I worked for Afilias, I'll come back. When I worked for Afilias, I spent about 2 years chasing and talking to country code top-level domains. Probably out of the 240 give or take country codes in the world, I was engaged. I mean, we had NDAs, we had negotiations. Some we signed up, most we didn't. But I learned a lot about how to not run registries, okay, in many cases. And a couple that were very successful and some that got real lucky. But the truth is that there's a lot of inexperience. They just don't do things right often. And that's why they've never really had the traction that .com and .org and the big TLDs have received. .uk, .co.uk, Nominet, and all that. But in another funny side note, two things. When I was with CentralNic, we helped 60 applicants get their new TLDs. So we worked with a lot of new GTLDs back then. And all along, from the very first day I got interested in domains, I've been a domainer. I'm not a big, successful, crazy domainer, but I've bought and sold a lot of domains. And a lot of the oldest people in the business know who I am. And so I've always had a real affinity for the domain investor. To me, they're a really important part of the domain ecosystem. So my objectives today, I don't know, I'm a little worried about my slides here. My objectives today are not listed, but I have 3 objectives. What I want to do is I want to ask you to put yourself in the place to pretend that you're a registry, okay? And if you are a registry, what would you need to do to succeed? And in that process, I'm going to try to show you what is needed to succeed as a registry, okay? And I'm going to use IT.com as an example for you to show you what we're doing in the hopes of being a very successful long-term registry, okay? So just a little bit about IT, I should tell you. We're a private registry. Although we hold an ICANN accreditation, it's non-operational. It's just a holding registrar right now. But we're a private registry, just like CentralNic was in the beginning. They owned US.com. They sold third-level domains. They owned UK.com. They sold third-level domains. That's what this company does. We've invested just in the past 3 years over $5 million in this business. So we're not taking it lightly. And if I may recognize our CEO, Andrei Inserov. Andrei is the That's Andre's here today. We should give him a round of applause. He's doing some amazing things. He's been one of the most steadfast people I've ever met in this industry, but he has other businesses that are very successful, and he is committed to the domain industry. If you've been to any industry conferences, you've seen us, it's because he's investing in this business, and we've only just begun. Our team, I can't say enough about. You guys probably know most of them, but we love to think of ourselves as a dream team. I'll just talk briefly about Tess. Most of you have met Tess. She's a wonderful, very connected, super positive, exciting person to work with. We love Tess. She's been in the business since early days of GoDaddy. Alessandro's been in the business with 2 Cows. He's our Italian connection, and we're doing really good in Italy. Munir, I met Munir at CloudFest. If he's around, there he is. In 2015, while I was working for 101 Domain, and he has one of the largest .ae resellers or registrars in the world. He's an advisor. And then we just hired Sergey Gormanov, and Sergey's around here somewhere. Where are you? Sergey, a lot of people know Sergey. He's been in ICANN circles for a long time. And because we have plans to become a RSP, a registry service provider, Sergey is assisting us, and he's a liaison between our technical team, Andre, and the people that are building those systems. And we're very capable of these systems because Andre's other company is a short messaging service company. It's a software company, so he knows how to develop great software. And when I came on board, he already had his own registry started. So it was like, in my old days, I'd say, well, you need to get a registry provider. He had it, and we're developing and making it better. So we were very capable in that sense. So that's a little bit of, now, if you look at the average new TLD, the investment in it back in 2012 was not very large in spite of us thinking it was. It was $185,000, maybe some people, some consulting, and an RSP. I mean, at CentralNic, we were partnering with people so they can basically start their top-level domain, the 60 people we work with, as a partnership. They didn't have to invest anything except for the $185,000 it was then. Now it's going to be something like $280,000, I think, but there's inflation, so I can understand that. So when you look at the investment in the domain, you can see how serious we are. But anyway, over those 2 years with Afilias, I did spend a lot of time talking to country codes, and I developed a model. It doesn't want to stay. Why is this thing being like that to me? A model that I call the 5 pillars of a successful registry. And I just want to touch on these things. So if you're a registry and you want to succeed and you want to attract domain investors and you want to attract end users, you need to keep these things in mind. The first one is transparency. Now, if you look up registry in the dictionary, it's going to say that it's an official record book. Okay, it's an electronic record book in our case, but it needs to be open. You need to have very clear who is information. You need to be able to show people what's going on, what's registered, what's not, what is the status of it, okay? You have to have rules. That's part of transparency too. Now, a lot of, when I worked at 101 Domain, somebody would come to us, registries would come to us and say, hey, will you sell our new top-level domain? And they wouldn't have all their policies in place, believe it or not. You'd be surprised at how many people would come to us, give us a price. Sometimes they wouldn't even we didn't know how to renew. What would it cost? There were so many things they would forget that come down the road, and they had no rules. Their policies were very mishmashed, okay? So it's confusing not only for the registrar, but it's confusing for end users. So transparency is super important. You've got to be able to be open about what you're doing. The second thing is the reach. Now, if you're going to offer domain names, you have to offer domain names where they're sold, and that is registrars. So our entire approach to this industry is to work through registrars. IT.com is a little nonconformist. It's a different model. But by the way, it works exactly as the domain name system was meant to work. If you look to the original RFP about the domain name system, written by John Postel, 1984, 5, 6, it was in early days. It talks about second and third level domains, and we follow that exactly. So you have to have a lot of registrars. You have to be unhindered. Now, this was a big problem with country codes. A lot of them had rules. Most had rules. Like, if you don't live in our country, you can't buy a domain. How are you ever going to grow as a business? And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what they want. If they don't want to grow, you limit it to your country. You limit it to people that have a license. You limit it to whatever. But a domain must be unhindered if growth is your objective. And a lot of country codes and a lot of new GTLDs have certain policies that just close it off to a big majority of potential buyers. Needless qualifications, lots of premiums. You know, at 101 Domain, we'd get a new GTLD offer and say, oh, by the way, we have 30,000 premiums. And we're like, do you want to sell these or do you want to just hold them out for yourself? It's a ridiculous proposition. So you got to be unhindered. No holdbacks, or at least, not any unlegitimate ones. There are certain ones you have to hold back, but too many premiums, not a good idea. You have to have security. Now, today, I always tell people that are new to the internet that you have to pretend like there's somebody at your door knocking, pushing, fighting, literally every minute of every day trying to get into your house, okay? And you have to keep them out. And the only way you do that is through strong security protocols. You got to have it, okay? And you have to have the second S, part of it, it's not listed, but it's stability. So I don't know if any of you read, by the way, I'm a fan of ICANN, and I'm also a fan of .com, okay? Our domain is ultimately a .com domain. We're just a subdomain on it. And the stability that VeriSign has had for 40 years is pretty significant. It's meaningful to us. I mean, a lot of businesses rely on the stability, the security. And when I say stability, I'm talking like, yeah, they can change their prices. They might be able to raise their prices, but they're not like, one day it was $50 a year, and then the next month it's $500 a year. And I think some of us in this room may have experienced that. You might know what I'm talking about. So stability. And then finally, domains are a business of technology and transactional function. You have to have the technology to be able to do things fast, because you don't make a lot of money selling a domain name. It needs to be click on, and it needs to happen. As soon as you get a person involved, you've just, quadrupled the cost of that domain name to you as a business. So if you're a registry and you got people doing stuff, you're going to not be quite as successful. So that's the 5 pillars that I call the trust, the 5 pillars of a successful registry. Now, how do we apply it? And I want to kind of give you examples. So we've actually broken out. One of the things I always tried to teach registries that wanted to grow is that you've got to look at your TLD and you've got to think about who is going to buy or who is going to sell this. Are you going to try to sell them only yourself? I mean, there's a lot of TLDs that you have to go to the registry to buy it. Yeah. Do you have a reach? You're hindering yourself. So basically for our company, I've broken down our channel, who is going to sell our domains as a registry to the public. How are we going to reach the maximum number of people? And there's a little part of this that who are those people? So the first one is, well, we do have, the most important one in my view is the registry channel. So these are all the registrars, take that back. The registry channel is our wholesale channel, which is our NIC site, our Network Information Center.it. That doesn't exist yet, by the way, but it's going to soon. That's where we're going. We just have one site for both. We do a little bit of direct business, but we were going to separate it. So any little retail business we do is going to be separate from the registrar channel. So the NIC will be where we sell to registrars and resellers only. And then our get.it.com is going to be our direct. We do have some direct business, and we learn a lot through that process. So we'll continue to have that. So those are our first 2 channels. About that registrar channel, you don't want to compete with them. So, you have a basically suggested retail price. Ours is $49 retail, $25 wholesale, for most people know that in this room. We do not price our domains lesser than we would sell it to any registrar. There's registrars in this room that'd be pretty upset if they found out we're selling our domain for less than we sell it to them. So we don't do that. We don't compete with our channel. It's a basic premise of doing business in a channel. Then we have several kinds of other people who sell. There's the wholesale-oriented registrars. So CentralNic Reseller, who is one of our registrars, is a wholesale-oriented. So they have a very low margin, but they try to recruit resellers. There's channel resellers who are resellers who just want to go direct. So we do that WHMCS, which is software that allows resellers to sell. But we also have what's called EPP, which if they're sophisticated enough, they can use. And they sell with retail margins rather than low margins. Then there's the channel registrars that are retail only or retail oriented. That's the GoDaddies. Okay, and I'm sure most of you know that we just recently signed up GoDaddy, so you can go there and buy it.com domains. But InternetX, they have kind of both. Pork Bun, a lot of you guys like. There's a lot of retail registrars. You have to have those. Retail margins, usually value-added products. And then there's what I would call the brand or enterprise-oriented registrars, the Mark Monitors. And by the way, those types of companies, cum laude, those type of companies are your first sunrise buyers. You open up a registry, you have no buyers. Nobody knows you exist. There's only two people that know you exist, the brand registrars, okay, and guess who's the other one that knows you exist? The domain investors. And then if they want to take the risk and invest in your business, those are the people that are going to support your registry in the very early days. And so there's an order and there's a reason. And then the last one is the aftermarket. That's not really your registry business, because it's where buyers obviously buy and sell and trade domain names. But you should recognize it, and you should look for ways to work with those so that you have a whole ecosystem of registry of top-level domain in place. Now, the second thing is who buys your products. Now, and every TLD has to ask themselves this question, because every TLD is different. I mean, back when IO was, Indian Ocean, they had no idea that somebody would one day become interested in buying their domain as a popular domain. AI didn't know that either. We saw earlier today when Michael showed his chart how they just grew when AI came into the scene. That's what you call popping. Sometimes you buy a domain name for investment, some weird .com, and then the word becomes popular and trends, and all of a sudden you've got this crazy valuable domain name. Has it happened to any of you here? I'm sure it has. The same thing can happen with a CCTLD. But what is happening to my slides? Sorry, guys. I was just going to summarize that. But anyway, so we did that thinking ahead of time. And we basically have, again, these are the buyers, the brand managers who work with trademarks, the domain investors. These are the first people buying domains. Then there's the general domain buyers. But in that category, you got to think, what does my TLD mean? How do we market it? Okay. And it just so happens that IT means a few things. It's obviously there's a huge global IT business in the world. There's lots of IT people and IT companies, and we've identified and we're working on targeting them. There's Italians, which we love. We have Italians right here in our company helping us reach out to that market, and we're doing great in Italy. And then there's marketers that like call to action domains. Our domains are an instant call to action. Buy it, buy.it, sell.it, eat.it, whatever. There's thousands of words that are calls to action. So marketers, there's a market there. And then finally, what we think could be the biggest one is something we call the it factor, okay? It's having it. It's Simon Cowell saying, hey, I don't know what it is, but you've got it. It's a unique, special quality that is kind of undefinable, but it makes you special. And we actually think there's something there for the general market. In fact, our sales are proving it, because we are finding out that not everybody that's buying our domains are IT people or Italians. We're getting a lot of people who are actually registering it generically, and we're going to work on messaging that will allow people to show that an it.com domain actually means that there's something special. I can remember watching the news. NVIDIA was a popular company, obviously, right now, doing well. And it was Business Channel, and they said, oh, the big it company right now is NVIDIA. I remember I got that somewhere on, recorded. So we're going to capitalize on that. And then you get into all the normal categories. And this is stuff we have to work on. But this is how you build a successful registry. So those are things that we're doing. By the way, we have a cool thing. So I'm wearing a little lapel here, a little handkerchief from the IWA. The IWA is the International Women's Alliance, who we have sponsored. Andrea's helped them to found it. It's actually run by Natalia. Tess is helping them. And I'm wearing this as a reminder because I wanted to talk about it. So if there's any women in this room, this IWA, International Women's Association, IWA.it.com, is offering mentoring. It's offering a community of women that are supporting each other, and a website. So in a very small fee, a reasonable fee for what you get, and we want to expand it. Question? Am I done? Okay. My microphone is off. Okay. Hold it closer. Thank you. So IWA.it.com. Look at it. For the woman in the room, this is a really great thing that I think is going to grow. But that's a market that you can't anticipate. And so actually what happened was, I don't know if he's in the room, but Site.pro, they partnered with them. They do these beautiful little websites that are very nice, very clean, and they're helping the IWA to do really well. So just kind of closing up, and then if anybody has questions, I'll be happy to answer them. This is just a little bit about our plan. So we've spent a lot of time reaching out to the channel. We have 35 registrars or resellers offering IT.com domains in just literally 18 months of general availability, which is, I'm excited about. Some of our current registrars, we started off with a Sunrise back in January. We retail suggested for $49. And obviously you can check with your registrar. We're offering them really low priced right now through many registrars. Check with your registrar. There's lower pricing than what I put up here. Plain vanilla EPP for registrars. These are the markets I talked about. By the way, we've sold a lot of our premiums. We do have premiums, about 3,500 of them. That's a low amount for most registries. We have sold somewhere in the range of 200,000 of those premium names. So people are willing to pay a little bit more. And next year, the rest of this year, next year, we'll continue our channel development, but we're also going to reach out to the IT world to succeed. By the way, this little part here, I wanted to show you this page, get.it.com for registrars, because we did spend the time in 2002, before we opened up our Sunrise, to put all of the rules, the policies. We have all the same rules that every registrar in the world has that is an ICANN accredited registrar. By choice, not by decree. We're not required to do this. But what kind of registry would we be if we didn't have rules, policies, DRP? We even work with the World Intellectual Property Organization so we're not taking the side of anybody. We let them do that. We try to negotiate and help if somebody complains, but we leave it up to WIPO if there's an resolvable dispute. So if you have interest, we'd love to team up with you. If you're a registrar, if you're just interested in learning more about it, you can write to us at joe@it.com, and we thank you very much for taking the time to listen.
Any questions at all? No. Well, thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
So running nicely to time. Nigel, we have a question. Joe, stay. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, apologies for coming in late. Thanks so much for your presentation. I mean, it's incredibly interesting to see how it's grown, and because I remember hearing a presentation a couple of years ago. So it's
right.
It's really really welcoming. I suppose the question I had is how you see the new GTLD market affecting you, or will you be interested in being part of it? What opportunities do you see in 2026 as new GTLDs come in?
Okay, so to answer that, the first question is it will affect us. We're very fortunate right now to have a great team in place and to be in between releases. So our registrars right now are not distracted by new TLDs coming out every week. When I was at 101 Domain, we saw them coming in every week. So we just have this amazing opportunity, not only for us, but for every registrar that's in the room. Now is a time you can start making money, start selling, and using this product. It's not like, oh, we'll start selling it in 2027, maybe. So, I'm all for new TLDs, but this is an opportune time. Now, will we apply? Yeah, we're planning to apply for some TLDs, and we'll have our registry in place. We already are working on the evaluation process. We're all working on that right now. So we'll be an RSP as well, but we honestly are looking at some of our own TLDs too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good question, Nigel. Thank you very much. That's it. Thanks, Joe.